we get two.
I saw two.
Yeah, so I'll let you go first and then maybe last too, so you maybe present both. You sent it, Diego? Who else? Something to share today? Any orders? All right. So two from Matthew, one from Diego. Okay, so we've been talking about strategies and process to develop new products, right? Or to extend existing products. All sorts of methodologies that we kind of look. We talk about how to generate an idea, the concepts and process and constructs of that, what does that look like? We looked at maybe some research methods, how we could kind of look from top-down approach. Maybe look at what customers' complaints are about something, a product or service. Look at what they wish they had, right? Some sort of feedback. But here we're going to look at actual attributes, right? Dimensions, height, width, temperature, chemicals, right? The physical product itself, right? How do we analyze it in a way that we can gain some insight so that we can make corrective changes to producing something either new or an extension of something that exists. So we're looking at attribute approaches in a qualitative manner. Here we got, hey, two commercially available conjoint, right? Methods, right? We said these are analysis methods available for commercial use, adaptive conjoint analysis. So we said we have a person that responds and judges the importance of an attribute. A customer, a prospective customer, or an existing customer, maybe to some degree, right? They judge the product in the sense of what is the most importance of the things about the product. Right? They respond to options that focus on the most important attributes and the levels. In the sense that there's a hierarchy. There's a hierarchy with your phone. Like, what is the most important attribute to that phone you have? Right? And what's maybe the least in your own personal judgment? Right? What is it about the phone that you feel is most important? If you could name one thing, what would that be? Say your smartphone. What is the primary importance in terms of an attribute about the phone? What's like the number one? All right, functionality. Who here would take the design over functionality? Any of you? Would take design over functionality? Like it's just a beautiful phone, like a flip phone, a Galaxy fold out into a tablet phone or something.
I think more so for me, it more plays into the company, like the operating system rather than like functionality, like design. Like I would never buy an Android over an iPhone.
Just because of the operating system.
I think just because the operating system
As an ecosystem.
My first smartphone was like a basic Samsung. I actually found that it wasn't good, and I switched to an iPhone, and I had a much better user experience.
Yeah. I say for me too, I switched to Samsung. I've had every iPhone since first iPhone. And then I switched maybe with like the 7th or 8th iPhone 7 or something like that. I was like, oh man, I'm gonna try Samsung. So I was like, they haven't did anything new, and like they hadn't did anything new in 3 years, and I finally had enough. I was like, all right, I'll try Samsung. Because Samsung was, has some really unique features back then. I tried it maybe for like 2 months. I was like, okay, let me give it enough time. And I just thought, in my personal opinion, too many options for what I'm gonna do. Right? I was like, you can do much more with Samsung, right? But also I felt like it was less secure than the iPhone. Right? Some of the websites or things got buggy. It almost felt like a laptop in my pocket. Like you could get viruses and all sorts of things that just had too much going on. So for me, yeah, I think too, for me, I'm like Apple's operating system and the ecosystem just much more.
Plus, I think they're more innovative too. Like Apple's been more innovative over the past years, and like most recently, especially compared to like Android.
Yeah, I'd say maybe in the last 3 to 4 years before that, Apple was slow.
Like, what if?
They would follow up behind others. They would wait for others to come up with the
When the
technology.
iPhone X came out, and they took away the home button,
Yeah,
and went to the all screen.
yeah. Yeah, I like that they did that. Okay, so they're like, hey, you have, respondent judge the importance of the attributes and kind of put them in the higher levels. Or you give choice-based conjoint analysis, right? Respondent shown several choices in combination and ask, which is preferred. Right, so you're like, hey, you just, presenting options to prospective customers, someone who would meet the maybe segment of that customer for that device or the product or service, and you're saying out of these options, which one do you prefer? Right? Maybe we actually offer those options, and now we want to delineate and kind of say, well, which one will we actually launch? Which one do customers have a preference for? All right, so both of these procedures produce a number of attributes to which the respondent is exposed. Another one, we have information acceleration applied by General Motors to test new electric car concepts. So here we're talking about virtual buying environments, right? Hey, let's create an environment like a simulation in some way. Let's present information about vehicles in some way. Let's see how a customer maybe use a kiosk, access information, right, and go about it to make a purchasing decision, right? So we kind of simulate a purchasing situation. We use surrogate travel technology to allow the customer to virtually walk around the showroom and look at computer-generated car prototypes, right? So therefore, we know when we finally have a physical showroom, where customers prefer where cars are located, where we prefer where salespeople are located, service people are located, waiting areas, right? How have customers kind of responded to say they would prefer the layout? We can take that, we can kind of put it up on the website or app as well too for General Motors, and we can implement that same virtual showroom. So we'll show the car, it could be 360, sort of viewing, and it also allows you to integrate and kind of go inside the interior, but then also integrate how you're gonna purchase or finance and get the questions you would like to have answered. All right, so this is another sort of testing concept here. Some other qualitative attribute analysis techniques. We have checklists, we look at the relationships between things, analogies, right, dimensional analysis. For example, dimensional analysis, right? How do we look at the dimension of weight, right? And level of importance. Like, well, how much is weight on a vehicle you're concerned? How much is the weight on anything you buy, an appliance, right? And even you say things like a coat, right? You're like, oh man, it's too heavy, right? Try it on. We can have perspective of the judges try it on, right? To see how it feels. It's too heavy. Other things, right? We're talking about maybe just cars, we say, hey, rust resistant, or even things like appliances, right? The use of stainless steel, these types of things are probably good for that. The length. We're talking once again about cars, we're like, hey, how do customers feel about the length? Too long, too short, the proportions just don't look right, something looks off, maybe according to how prospective customers feel. Color is extremely important. Remember, there's a color psychology. Your wallpaper should be sky blue. Why? Because you've been experiencing sky blue visuals your whole life, and it calms you. And so, usually you could look at the sky for a very long time. If you change your background, that would create a sort of different framework in your mind, and now your eyes are going to get tired quicker, right? Because you haven't been looking at that sort of thing for your whole life, as opposed to the sky. So like color matters, right? Blue, white, red, all those evoke some sort of emotion or some sort of perception about something. Right? Things that are red are considered high energy colors, right? Sometimes maybe even emergency colors because our blood is red, right? So that's kind of a perception. Other thing, water resistance, right? That was a big one at once upon a time with the phones, but now I think we've kind of reached the IP ratings to where there's not really people even talk about that anymore, right? Because it used to be a thing. iPhones at one point, you couldn't put them in the water and they were failed, right? But at some point they reach a high IP rating where not a concern, go in the water or record. Materials, right? Cheap materials versus quality materials. Tesla has been known to have very cheap materials in its vehicles, right? But beautiful design, and maybe even lightweight, right, for an electric vehicle. Yeah, but materials could be a fundamental kind of importance for customers. Style, right? Things like durability. How long will this car last? Most reliable car rated usually is what brand? What brand? Most reliable car?
Toyota.
Toyota here. Anyone else?
Honda.
Honda. Anyone else?
Maybe Subaru.
Subaru. Right, Subaru. Toyota owns 20-something percent of Subaru. All three cars you just named, manufactured in Japan. So, kind of like that, Japanese makes the most reliable vehicles, right? Look up Subarus for sale online, used 300,000, 400,000 miles, Honda 200, 300,000 miles. And you start to look up Mercedes and things like that, those cars are done for maybe about 130, 140,000 miles. And you have to replace it. Engine, transmission, too expensive, probably just replace the car. Right? So difference. Some people love the aspect of durability, some not so much, some love the style. So then you might say, well, Subaru doesn't have the most greatest style, so it's not the most important for certain customers. But for certain customers, it just may be style. Right? The most stylish cars are most likely Italian and British, right? Germans out there too. But the Italian and the British probably produce the most style vehicles. Right? Ferrari, Lamborghini, Rolls Royce, Bentley, Aston Martin, Land Rover, Range Rover, right? British. Okay, and heat tolerance, right? Another kind of interesting perspective. Maybe you could apply that to your phone. In hot weather, your phone may give you a notification that it's too hot, and you can't heat, you have to wait till there's some charging. That could be an issue if you live in very warm climates, right? You live in very hot climates and you leave your phone in the car and now you can't even charge your phone because the temperature doesn't have the heat tolerance that maybe it should, that you would like it to have. Other things, explosiveness. Once again, cars and phones, right? The batteries on some of these electrical vehicles, highly flammable, right? The same thing would be with the batteries in your phone, right? The lithium-ion batteries. Samsung had an issue with that, had to do a significant recall, especially because of airline safety, bringing phones above aircraft. Aroma, right? Aroma could be things in terms of maybe like coffee. You know, we know that integrated within the sensation of taste, smell is integrated in that. So part of your tasting profile involves smelling, not just actual chemical taste, but the chemical part of the smell as you're tasting. So aroma is important too for many people, maybe for coffee. Other things, translucence, buoyancy, hangability, right? Rechargeability, fast charge. May be important for people. People are like, yeah, I use this phone all the time, all day. I need it to recharge with fast charge. That might be the most important factor. Flexibility, malleability, compressibility, right? All very similar components. An ideal simulator checklist for industrial products. Can we change the physical chemical properties of the material? Right? Can we change the physical properties of, well, you can, cause some issues. One, you may run into regulation issues, can it be done from a governmental, regulatory standpoint? Will you compromise the entire thing? Maybe we compromise the vehicle itself and start changing physical chemical properties while it's in the vehicle? Right? Is the item no longer the same because you've changed chemical properties? We think about this maybe in food, some of our industrial processed food. You may say, hey, you know, you've tried certain crackers a few years ago and to save cost, they're using different materials or chemicals now, and it just does not taste the same, so you're not gonna buy it anymore. But they would maybe describe it as something new, but it just doesn't really have the appeal anymore for the customers. Are each of the functions really necessary, right? Cars are notorious for selling the functions that people never really use, right? I will say that, you know, I think electric vehicles are pretty cool in my estimation for just having an onboard kind of computer. You don't have to fidget around with a bunch of different knobs. It's kind of seamless. You can also update firmware for the vehicle. It feels like you're getting a new car every once in a while. That's kind of cool, right? But in terms of maybe other, like non-kind of computer-based vehicles, you're like, well, is each function that's being so useful? Are people actually using the moon roof? Are people actually using, you know, different kind of components within the vehicle? Is it worth what we're gonna charge? Can we construct a new model of this? New model of a phone, new model of a car, right? At what point is it a new model? How is it deviated from the previous model? Can we change the form of power to make it work better? Right? But like to make it work better has its challenges because now you may not have that planned obsolescence. Right? You may not want the customer to have it forever because that means they're not going to keep buying stuff. You may want them to keep buying it. So do you want it to make it work better? But then if you make it work better, customers will have more brand loyalty because they're like, product is very dependable, reliable, it's of great quality, it does what I expect it to do. Right? So you kind of got a conundrum. Like I want it to work better, but not to the degree that you'll never have to buy anything ever again. Right? That would be an issue. So, you know, Apple or Samsung may have those kind of issues. Like, we don't want it to be perfect. We don't want you to be able to use the phone for 5 years. We want you at max maybe use it for 2.5 years. And at that point, the battery starts to degrade itself. Operating system starts not to be compatible with your device and things like that. Can standard components be substituted? Right? Kind of correlates into the change in the physical chemical properties. What if the order process was changed? Right? Or what if the order of the process were changed? Right? Is it something new at that stage? Trying to think I'm a huge fan of Dunkin' Donuts. Once again, Dunkin' Donuts revamped their brand identity. It went from Dunkin' Donuts to Dunkin', right? And you're like, oh, why? Why Dunkin'? Yes.
I believe most people would just call it Dunkin'. Not too many people really call it Dunkin' Donuts.
We now live in a society where we kind of have a preference to say things in short form. No one's interested in saying long words, even if it's a brand, right? So you're like, hey, people just call it Dunkin'. So how about you change the name to what people call it? Makes sense? Right? But it's more personalized. Personalized in the sense that, hey, Dunkin's like, hey, let's actually put the location for each coffee shop. Right? Dunkin', whatever, Chicago neighborhood. Right? Dunkin' Avondale, Dunkin' Lincoln Park. Right? right? Dunkin' Oak Park, they'll slap it right there. They wanna personalize it to make it feel more of a community-based cafe, which they kind of felt Starbucks was, and other competing cafes felt more community-based. So Dunkin's like, let's slap the name of the community up on the wall there too. Other things, right? They did barista style, made it look like a bar, a pub, where you can pull down the thing and get the coffee as they prepare it, right? Like, okay, simple concept. Question. Simple concept, we like just put that in front of customers. Place that in front of customers so we can get different brews. And it feels more like a posh kind of cafe, right? Dunkin' was notorious for just looking really, really bland interiors, right? Kind of like Burger King-ish interior, where you think Burger King's not a very great looking interior of the store, right? Whereas McDonald's, you know, it's kind of nice. They changed up so much stuff. All right, so everyone kind of tried to follow that Starbucks experience, right? People kind of tried to follow that. McDonald's tried to do that, make it cafe style with free Wi-Fi and all those things, right? And others tried to follow suit. Okay, how might it be made more compact, right? So we're talking about maybe vehicles and even phones again. Like, hey, how can I make this vehicle more compact? If space is an issue for people, does it mean it's easier to park? Maybe if it's more suitable to the urban developmental needs, right? Like small parking spaces, compact car parking, we see now in a lot of the parking garages, right? Small size vehicles. And so, you know, car manufacturers kind of follow suit. How do we make it more compact without maybe changing the interior space, the cabin space, right? Do we increase the height of the vehicle a couple inches? What do we do? How do we make it more compact? What if it were heat treated, hardened, cured, or plated? Right here, you can maybe think of Tesla Cybertruck. Right, like Tesla Cybertruck, maybe one of the selling points, I don't know why, you know, it would be such an emphasis, but one of the selling points is like, oh, it's bulletproof. Right, you need bulletproof, right? Oh, it's this and that. You can take a sledgehammer to it. Why do you need to take a sledgehammer? Right, expect that to be in your vehicle. But like, it's a selling point, right? The selling point would be like, hey, you know, it's plated, treated, hardened, cured in some way that it will be viewed as something indestructible, and that could be the selling point for customers. That could be something very important for them, for whatever reason. Maybe they live in an environment where, you know, they're kind of prone to getting little nicks and bumps on the cars. Who else could use this operation or this output? And that could be for different things. Maybe we're selling to businesses, B2B, right? Maybe they could use this operation. And has every step been computerized as much as possible? Right? The thing with computers, it makes things faster, it makes things quicker, it makes the measurements more precise. Right? So computerization is extremely important, especially when we're talking about electronic devices or vehicles to some degree. And how much computerization can you implement? Right? Should we add more computerization or less? Maybe less in the sense that people still have a knack of viewing handmade things important in some way. Right? Maybe people do like the more handcrafted approach or handcrafted quality, right? Than just computerized, automated process. Some templates for creativity. We got attribute dependency. We define a functional dependency between two attributes. Here we give an example of the color of ink on a coffee cup is sensitive to heat and can reveal messages. This coffee is too hot. Right? Replacement. We can remove a component and replace with one from another environment. Example, antenna is replaced by headphone cord on right? Here we're talking about the color of ink on the coffee cup and the sensitivity to heat on the coffee cup if it's too hot. Right? So like, well, the issue would be what range will the ink start to either fade or come off based on the temperature of the coffee, right? Or the liquid inside. Depends, right? So like the ink depends on the temperature. Replacement, we can remove a component and replace it with one from another environment. Here we're saying antenna is replaced by headphone cord on the water, right? So maybe you're like, we go cordless or corded, right? So we can do some sort of replacement. Displacement, remove a component and its function to change the product. Example here, removing floppy drives resulted in ultra thin PCs. Right? Like, hey, one part of how we can get thinner on a personal computer or a laptop, back in the day, they had to remove the floppy drive because it's only so small you can get with that drive. So the drive was the main sort of issue, right? And once we could eliminate that, displace that, then it would allow us to have ultra thin PCs. Right? So here you like maybe want to remove something so that you can maybe change the form of the product. Right? But then you can't remove it if the technology is not available to actually keep functioning the product the way it's intended to function. Right? So here with floppy drives, they kind of had to wait around the technology caught up with other things, wireless technology, things of that nature. Or component control, we define a new connection between the component internal to the product and one external to the product. Here the example is toothpaste with whiteners, or suntan lotions with skin moisturizers. Right? We're like, okay, well, we get components that are internal to the product and one external to the product. Right? Like toothpaste, well, first of all, we need to make it to where it's abrasive enough, right, to be able to get off plaque, off teeth. But then we would also introduce something, internal things, right, that help teeth, kind of whiten to some degree. Or with suntan lotions and skin moisturizers. Like a good suntan lotion is good, and you'll use it frequently. Why not make it moisturizing and also make your skin very soft and hydrated, right? As opposed to just protecting from UV rays. Relationship analysis, right? So we look at force combinations of dimensions together, such as features, functions, and the benefits, right? Some way we kind of merge them all, we hit a sweet spot with the three, and we find that maybe that's the best approach. Or maybe, one is just more important than the other, but we still use all three together, right? But either way, we're kind of having combinations forced together to create some good product. Techniques, we use a two-dimensional matrix, a multi-dimensional morphological matrix, right? Two-dimensional example, a person and animal insured, the event insured against, right? So like in terms of insurance, right, we can have personal insurance also include our pets in that, right? Against sort of events that can happen, sickness, right? Unexpected thing, catastrophe, natural sort of event that can happen. Household cleaning products, right? Example, use 6 dimensions. The instrument used, so we're talking about household cleaning product, like, okay, well, the container it comes in is usually relative to how people usually maybe clean something, right? Like that depends on how they contain it. Dishwashing liquid used to come in the little squeeze container, now they're kind of getting more to the spray foam container, so that would be the instrument used. The ingredients used, right? Would be all the chemical agents mixed together to create the unique product. The optics clean, we need to understand that. Are we dishes? Are we cleaning floors? Are we cleaning countertops? Each one of those have different surface types, right? You don't wanna damage each one, so you wanna make it appropriate for, its intended use. Type of container will be part of the instrument. Substances removed, right? You do wanna consider and maybe experiment around and look at the relationships between the different types of, substances. Dirt, grit, killing bacteria, right? Viruses, things of that nature, right? Soft sort of substances, very hard surfaces, more abrasive maybe, things need to be used. And the texture or form of the cleaner. Remember we said we have things that are very foamy, potentially we can have things that are very liquidy with maybe low viscosity, things of high viscosity, or water-based products. And then lastly, another form of dimensional analysis. We have two key dimensions for winning new product ideas. One we could say utility lever, how the product will affect the customer's life, right? So we say we can leverage the utility of it. Right, how does the customer think it affects their life? They think it is simplicity that affects their life in the most important way? Is it fun or the image? Is it environmentally friendly? Does it reduce the risk of something? Is it convenient or is it just highly productive? Right? That would be the first dimension for winning new product ideas, right? So if you're proposing a product idea, you would say, hey, I created something that is simple for customers. I created something that is extremely have the perception of being fun and engaging. Or you're like, hey, I'm creating a green product, and that would be maybe the selling of the concept. Or something that can reduce the risk for a customer, something that can make things convenient or just highly productive for customers. Or we can have the dimension of buyer experience cycle. We can look at the stage when and where the product will affect the customer, such as when it's purchased, when it's delivered, when it's actually used, when it's supplemented with something else, maybe the maintenance of it or the disposal. Right? So maybe you make the disposal of it easy or beneficial in some way, right? Or you make it reusable in some way. You make the packaging reusable, right? Used to be cans and bottles, you get 5 or 10 cents back in the day once you recycled them. That was kind of a benefit promoted, right, in terms of the disposal of certain products, right? So you can win too on presenting concepts or ideas of a new product using these attributional analysis techniques. All right, let's do our words. Matthew, this first one is a PDF. Well, it's a written document, right?
Yeah.
Tesla? Okay.
The Tesla?
Tesla. you sent me your paper. I think you sent me your paper.
on there.
Yeah, on the screen, okay. Alright.
I should have two. Thank you. Should have two. I actually passed the wrong thing.
Yeah, no worries, that's fine, I got your chip off challenge one first.
Okay, good shit though. I have the, I'll have the final. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries.
I accidentally attached the wrong one. Should I send you the?
Yeah, we
The
can
wrong
do-
one?
Yeah, we can do that.
Alright, so I apologize for that.
Yeah.
The other one is in Rockwood.
Okay. Alright, I'll get the chip off challenge. Chip.
I don't know if I may make this one two slides on accident, just because of, for images purposes.
Mhm.
But I found this because COVID basically created a lot of things, situations where people are looking to do things more inside that they would normally do outdoors.
Mhm.
So, and, so that they could play with family and everything. So, I saw this on like an Instagram ad. So this was like, this is a way to like, it's a basically a game where you have this map and it's like and the golf balls have Velcros on them, so you can, say it's safe to play indoors and, in many environments. And, there's all these different games you can play with it, it's a great way to interact with family and all that, to have some fun. Especially when the weather's not nice outside. And all that. On the next slide. So like, these are like some images, like the product images from the listing, so you have like all the different games that are listed that you can play, and how this way works. All the different uses, like you see, like something used in outdoors, something used in an office, it doesn't have to be at home, like at home in the basement. Versatile in many environments.
Okay, so that's the accurate size at that bottom left?
Yeah. They both the same thing.
Okay, so yeah, so you could hit from as far as away as you want,
Yeah.
but here you give them a small space
Yeah.
relative to try to score at different points and.
Yeah, but also the nice thing is too, is like, you don't have to worry about like the golf ball stakes and then damaging like something in the house, right?
Because it's Velcro.
The Velcro and everything, hard.
Did, when you saw this, does the Velcro ball, like, does it slow down its like rolling or something? Like, does it get in the way of actually achieving?
It didn't say anything about that. That would be, I think that's something more where you have to probably read deeper into the product listing, or you have to try the product for yourself. All I have basically found details from reading the product description and all that, that was on Amazon, so.
So in your opinion, is this like a completely new product, or you like there are other products?
I think it's something more trending rather than like more new.
Mhm.
Although like, I think, cause a lot of the trends are more so like, what can people do indoors with family?
Yeah.
Or like, where the weather's not nice outside, or where they don't wanna have to travel, like, so long, they could easily have some fun or anything like that. And like, so you put it inside in the bad weather, you put it outside in the backyard, kind of more space when the weather's nice.
Alright, excellent. Alright, thank you for sharing that, Anthony.
Try to go back or try to wait.
I'll let Diego go.
Okay.
That's fine.
I can do the second one Wednesday, if that's okay.
Okay. All right, we got Heinz Ketchup.
Alright, so this was pretty interesting. I just found this, I was doing a Google search. I didn't hear about it until recently, until right leading up to the Super Bowl, but they had Heinz Craft had like a little, contest on IG where they were giving away some of these.
These characters.
Yeah, so I thought that was really interesting because I mean, just look at it, I thought it would be like a beer keg, but it's ketchup instead.
So this is just for parties, like what's the big sell?
Yeah, just like parties or big occasions, bring your friends over, parties, groups, whatever it might be. I believe that's valued around like 175.
$175.
Yeah.
Okay. And would you still have to refrigerate it after, like after you begin first use? Would you have to refrigerate it like you would normal?
I didn't see that.
Or is it like completely sealed off to where it just could leave out on the countertop or something?
I believe it's sealed, yeah.
So this is occasion-based design, so like the kind of the new product, new innovation about it is specifically for an occasion, right? So like Super Bowl watch parties, you're saying, or snack culture, game day rituals. One, the aesthetics, it looks like a beer keg, which is kind of cool. Two, it holds a lot of ketchup, so there's a lot of things that need ketchup, easy to dispense. Like, hey, this was kind of a social media thing
Yeah,
for Super Bowl. you
yeah,
said?
specifically leading up to that, yeah.
It's a playful, functional form, transform a familiar condiment into a conversation starter. So like, once again, it's, hey, this is pretty cool, right? It's something to talk about. And that in itself is kind of creates a novelty about it. Limited release, so like, okay, that's kind of a cool point, like it's not gonna be available all the time. Contest entry builds excitement and first party data collection before broad availability. And then social media first promotion aligns with digital community trends. Alright, so why it matters, it goes beyond packaging tweaks to create experience, so it's an experiential product, right? It's not just completely utilitarian. It's more about the experience of talking about it, it's different, it looks different. It's associated with another item, which is kind of beer. It reinforces brand love and elevates ketchup's presence in snack culture. Were you able to see if other condiments were offered in the same way, or was it just, like, was Heinz offering other things, or just ketchup?
It looked like it was just ketchup, I didn't see mustard or mayo or anything like that.
Okay. Excellent, this is unique. I mean, think about that, you're just taking an old, condiment that everyone uses, and like, okay, it's a new product, how? Because it's just reformed or repackaged in a way that should be for another different type of product, which is beer. Like, it's more of an experience, right? The novelty there is it's a new experience, it's something for people to talk about. And it does have a utilitarian purpose, because it's, you buy an extremely large plastic ketchup bottle, or you can buy something cool here that, at least kind of can hold a lot, and also easy to dispense, and something to talk about, right? So it kind of serves multiple purposes. All right, we'll get out of here a little bit early. Matthew, you could, share share your other one on Wednesday. For the rest of you,